often I get in my head of like, who am I to think that like all my dreams are gonna come true and like all these big goals that I have, like maybe they're too far away. I'm like, actually, who are you to think they're not?
Anna Cathcart, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited to talk about your very budding career right now.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
So you have had a crazy last couple of years, but you guys just wrapped XO Kitty, the show that you star on, this summer. What have you been doing since then?
Oh my gosh, it's honestly been really crazy because we finished season 3 a few months ago, and I've been going to college the last few years as well, kind of like in pattern with a season, a semester, a season. And for the first time, I'm not going to school and I'm not shooting right now. So I'm learning what patience looks like and how to slow down, which is really hard for me because I think I thrive really well off being chaotic because I'm a very anxious person and I'm like a little chaotic on the inside. So when my outside world also matches that, we do well. But things are a little quiet on the outside world right now, and now I'm just kind of freaking out. So learning what that looks like, and I'm also getting into producing, which has been so fun and very rewarding. So having things to work on just at a different pace than I'm used to.
Totally. So what does a day in your life look like right now?
Oh my gosh. Well, every week is definitely different. I try and wake up early and work out because it makes me feel a lot better. And those days that I do that, I always am like, at least I'm productive. I think that's a tough thing with a lot of like ambitious people and hardworking people is the lack of productivity. It feels like immediately like you failed the day. And I don't think that's true because rest is productive as well. And I know that logically, like if I don't rest by the time I reach my goals, I'll be too tired to even do my best there. And like this is productive to slow down, but learning that. So working out, hanging out with friends a lot. I like went and hung out with everybody like every day. I had a different hangout plan when I came home because I missed my friends so much. And I'm still living in Vancouver, which has been great. So just enjoying like Vancouver summer.
I love that. So you have been acting for a couple of years now. Obviously, you are really well known for your show XO Kitty, but prior to that, you've been in multiple other projects and you started in commercials.
I did.
What was that experience like? Do you remember your first day on set?
Oh my gosh, my first commercial was for Campbell Soup.
Okay.
I was 6 years old. I literally just had to go and eat soup, had no lines, no script, nothing. That was like one of the greatest days ever. And then I did a commercial when I was 10 and nothing else. It was just one commercial at 6, one commercial at 10 for Crayola chalk.
Okay.
And that was like a big turning point. And I think about that day quite often because I remember leaving and turning to my mom and literally being like, that was the best day of my life. Like I was like, if I can have that feeling and do that more, let's do anything to make that happen. Like that was truly a turning point. And I'd only ever done commercials, like commercial auditions or anything in advertising. And then when I was 12, I got a new agent and I did my first audition for film and TV. And I ended up booking the lead, which was very, very shocking to my whole family and to me because I'd never really done any other acting other than those 2 commercials. And I didn't know anyone in film and my family is very far from that industry. So to book a lead of a TV show, and I had a very quick turnaround. They asked me to go to Toronto like 4 days later and move there for 7 months and shoot this show every single day. And I was 12. Like I had no idea what I was doing. I had never been on a real set and like seen lines before. Like I was very fresh. So that was a crazy experience and kind of was my foundation to the rest of my career. And now it's been 10 years, which is wild for me to think about. And I learned so much of what I use day to day now on that set. And I was really lucky to meet really great people at the time.
Yeah, and that was for Odd Squad, correct?
Yes, for Odd Squad.
Okay, very cool. What do you think drew you to acting in the first place? You know, I feel like a lot of kids say, I want to be an actress, I want to be a pop star, I want to be so many things, but
Totally.
like don't act on it because it's hard to act on it at such a young age. So what was that process like? What drew you to like actually take action?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I really didn't think it was possible either. I felt like it was saying like, I want to be an astronaut, I want to be a fighter. Like you just like throw out things. And I'm really grateful that my family was like, okay, well, like if you're so excited about this, let's take a shot at it and try. And we were so green to everything too of like, what is an agent? And like, what does this mean? And like my parents were trying to make sure that I was getting into something that was positive and safe and good for me. And even at the start, like when that did happen, that was like, this was like the last expected option of like, I thought you'd audition, maybe do another commercial, do a guest star if even, and then like go to school and do a normal career. So this was very unexpected, but yeah, I think my sister did a few commercials too growing up, and I wanted to do anything she did, and I was like idolized her since I came out of the womb. I was like, you are my everything, and she still is. So I think that also definitely helped inspire me.
Yeah. You said that you learned a lot from that first experience that you use today. What are some of those either like skills or just like life experiences that you feel like have really informed how you go about your career now?
Yeah, I think a big one is even just the simple things that how a set works and how to act in a professional manner, and knowing even like lingo and like what this acronym means and that kind of stuff. No one's teaching you that before you go on your first set. And I think I've seen a lot of adult actors get into the industry later, and those things you're not learning in theater school. You're not learning beforehand. And I feel very grateful that I've had that foundation, because I've seen it happen where someone doesn't know what they're doing or doesn't know where to go or doesn't know what's going on, and they're seen as unprofessional, or people roll their eyes at them. I'm like, that's so unfair. And I find that like that's so frustrating that that person doesn't know, because why would they? They don't have those months of training or someone figuring it out. Like on other jobs, I feel like they sometimes ease you into it. But on a set, you get there your first day and like, I hope you know what you're doing. And I hope you know what a 10-1 is, which is literally just going to the bathroom. Like all of those things that were like, oh, you just should know this already, is so unfair. But at 12, you're allowed to not know. And I was really lucky to be on a set too, where you had room to mess up and room to ask questions. And so much of our cast, really our whole cast, were all kids. So that like had that environment and fostered that energy to be like, you can mess up and you can learn here. And I'm so grateful for that daily, because a lot of sets unfortunately aren't always like that.
I am really interested though in this transition from you being a child actor and like coming into these sets, being green, being, unexperienced, kind of finding your way through that, and then transitioning into now as an adult. I'm sure that transition does a lot to like your psyche. For one, just like the intention behind what you're doing, from it being like a passion, something you're interested in, to it turning into a job. What was that experience like for you?
Yeah, to be honest, it kind of freaked me out when I had like the first day I ever wanted to go home, or I was like, oh, like I'm so tired, I just want to be wrapped. I was like, hold on, you used to be upset when you were wrapped. You used to want to do nothing else but be on set. What is this feeling? What does this mean? And I was really hard on myself about it and was like, does this mean I'm not meant for this? Or like, am I ungrateful? Like, come on, Anna, you're living the dream. Like, stop being so tired. And I'm like, actually, I think this is just adulthood. And I think this is a career now. And it was a hobby. And for so long, it was just like this dream, cool thing to do. My friends go to soccer practice and like, I go to set and I love this activity. And then it started becoming like, oh, I'm actually a businesswoman and this is my job and this is like a product. And it's weird to think of it in that way sometimes, because I'm like, I'm also my own product. Totally. But it is like, it just changed like everything and my lens on it. And I think allowing like, no matter how much you love your job, you're going to have days where you want to go home. And there's going to be days where you're tired. And that doesn't mean you don't love it. And that doesn't mean it's not meant for you. But it's just changing that, like framing that relationship really did kind of freak me out those first few years. And that really hit when I did the first season of XO Kitty. I was 18 and I had just graduated high school, and I had never worked as like an adult. So I had different rules and different hours. And we were shooting so far away from home as well. And everything just changed at once, and that was like a really big transition time.
Yeah, I want to talk about shooting away from home as well. Many of your shows and your projects have been across Canada, across the US, in Korea. How do you feel about like not having a home base or being somewhere else for so many months of the year? What is that experience like?
I think the last few years with XO Kitty, it's all been in Korea, but those are like 4 months of the year or 3 months. And then I come home to Vancouver, and having a home base somewhere that is not so industry infused, like it definitely is. And we have a great industry in Vancouver, but I find going to a city like LA or New York, it's very inspiring, and I love going there, but there's a fine balance between inspiring and consuming. And I think if I was in those cities after just shooting in a very intense way for many months, it could get a lot very quickly. But to have a home base like Vancouver and to come home to my family and be around my friends has made such a big impact. And I do feel like I have a home base and a home there, and especially because I've been going to college, and I think that changed things a lot to have like a community and an environment and a place where also was my own, but it wasn't work and it wasn't related to my career, I think has made a really positive impact on me.
Yeah, I can totally understand that. About college, you are studying sociology and creative writing, correct?
Yes.
Why is that something that you wanted to go into? Especially, I mean, those things can have something to do with acting,
Totally.
But in many ways, they're very separate.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people have asked me like, oh, you're going to film school or you're probably doing theater or like something like that. And I think a big reason why I wanted to go to school is because I wanted to use another part of my brain that I haven't been using in my career. And I always dreamed of going to university, and my whole family basically has gone to UBC, and that's where my parents met, and my sister loved it. And like, I just dreamed of doing that path as well. So I always wanted to go, but I also want my career to stay in acting and stay in producing and in this industry, that I felt like this was a chance to learn something totally different and kind of do it for like the joy of it and the joy of education and just like learning, which was really, really fun. And I was very privileged to have the ability to have that angle with school and know that like my career isn't even about this. So I'm not like as stressed about what's going to happen when I graduate or this and that. It's like I'm here because I want to learn and I want to become an adult as well. I feel like a campus is a place that is so specific, and like you're with people who are your peers and you're all figuring yourself out. And as a kid, I was around adults all the time on sets, and I was not in those environments necessarily. So it was very special for a lot of reasons.
I know you've talked about before too in a recent interview of yours that you and your character Kitty kind of went on this journey at the same time of like moving away and like growing up and finding your people and, you know, just finding your kind of way in life. How often do you feel like you in kind of like intersects with who you're playing, and how do you separate it? Do you try and separate it? Or what is the mindset behind keeping Anna and your characters?
It is interesting, especially because I've played Kitty for so many years. It's been 8 years now, which is wild. And having just like a healthy relationship with it, because I know that so many people in the world know me as this character, and we definitely do have our similarities. But I think, season 1 was like our greatest overlap. Our Venn diagram was like really merging. Was a circle, because I was fresh out of high school. And I mean, it was different because Kitty is in high school, but I was like learning who I am as a person by myself and figuring out what independence looks like and what do I want in my life, period. And like, what am I searching for? And going to Korea and living like in a hotel with my castmates felt like dorms. Like I was like, we are in a place that I've never been to, and being like wide-eyed looking out the window is like literally how the show opens, and was literally me coming from the airport. That feeling, I was like, this is not a stretch. Like I know how this feels to be in a brand new place and be just excited to like grow up a little. And that definitely has like been a fun kind of like someone to hold hands with while you're figuring that out and while you're growing up. Is like we're doing it together.
Is it easier to act when you feel like you can relate to the experience so much, or do you feel like that then clouds things too much for you?
Yeah, I think for this type of show, it definitely can be very helpful. And like just thinking about how would I feel in this scenario and how would Kitty feel. And I feel like I know her well also, which helps. And finding like the new version of her with the show compared to the movies made it really, really like just like interesting challenge and really fun to re-meet her. It was kind of like seeing an old friend that I'm like, I know you, but I don't know you right now, and like let's find out who she is. So that was really cool to reestablish.
So yeah, let's talk about that transition from the To All the Boys franchise where you first started playing Kitty to now it having an offshoot, a show that was created around you and this character. That similar to how we're talking about like going from a child to an adult actor, going from a supporting role to a lead role probably really changes your experience on set.
Definitely. I feel like, I mean, one, it was very unexpected. And when I first auditioned for To All the Boys 1, like for that first movie, I was 13. I like don't even know if I was the one who got the audition. It was probably like in my mom's inbox. Like I was fully a kid. And that was just a singular movie. It wasn't even attached to Netflix at the time. It was not like this big franchise yet. It was attached to those 3 books that Jenny Han wrote, but it wasn't at all what it is now. And if you told me then that like I would be here at 22, still part of this character's world, I would never have believed it. So having that transition was like first just mind-blowing. I had to like wrap my head around it. And then going from a supporting character to a lead definitely changed things a lot. I think season 1, I was kind of like, I don't actually know what my job is, and I don't know what this is, even though I'd done it for many years and was like, I'm familiar with acting, I'm comfortable with it, but being a lead on a show like this and with this type of pressure and this type of audience and it being on Netflix and my name being so heavily attached to it, and like that was a new sense of pressure that I had never felt. A lot of it was also internal. And then a new sense of leadership that I also hadn't had the opportunity to really step into, but I loved it and I loved getting the chance to do that. And I feel like what I received the most like outstanding feedback on, or the most positive feedback from directors and producers or CEOs of companies or whatever, it's not just like how I show up as an actor, but how I show up as a leader and my attitude towards things and my spirit on set and how I take over that role. I think that's what gets noticed, which has been really interesting to see. And I feel like as a lead, you're kind of a team captain, and that's how I like to look at it, is like, I'm not just going to show up and do my lines and leave. It's like, I feel like it's my job to also make sure everyone is feeling included, and the cast are all feeling like a big like family, and all of that falls, I feel like, on kind of that team captain role. And I don't know, I think I like to like lead with the mindset of you can't like always be the most accomplished person in the room or even talented, but you can always try and be the kindest, and you can always try and be the most hardworking. And I think those things sometimes get overlooked, especially in an industry where we're told it's very like cutthroat and it can be very harsh. So you got to like push people down sometimes to get where you want. But I also think like there's always a way to do it respectfully and do it kindly, and that is going to get noticed. And that doesn't mean like let yourself get pushed around or don't stand up for yourself, because being kind and being respectful is also being kind to yourself and having a lot of self-respect, and like that gets noticed and that gets felt even subconsciously, I feel like, in a workspace. And no matter what kind of industry you're in, someone in a leadership position, I feel like I've been told by a lot of people it trickles from the top, and I feel like I've seen that firsthand. Every single person in your workspace is important, and every single person that is here, there's a reason why they're here. And even if you're just getting bagels in like the coffee room, that's important and you're needed, and like making sure those people feel like they're important and respected. And I know that often doesn't always happen. And I don't know, I feel like trying that out, that is very valid too if you don't like leadership roles, and there's space for everybody, and like just kind of dipping your toe into that of like, I think no matter what role you have, you can also try and be like the best version of that ever. Like even if it's like, oh, I don't do anything important, I just like whatever, I'm an intern. It's like you can be the greatest intern that this company's ever seen. And like I also think my parents have always taught me that of like work with what you have and do the best you can with that thing. And it doesn't mean doing it like showily or trying to like show off or whatever, get in people's faces, but just like, I will get your coffee better than anyone's ever gotten your coffee. Like I think that is kind of how I've been raised, and I lead with that as well.
There's no small roles, only
There's no small
actors.
roles, literally.
No, I love that. You now are also coming into some producing roles. So from these, lead acting roles, these production roles, what do you think makes a really efficient set today?
Oh my goodness. I am learning that constantly, and producing is fascinating to me. It's so fun, and I've dreamed of doing this for a long time, but I'm learning that so much of what happens like before you get to a set is very, very important. And so much of that also is like pushing rocks up hills, hoping they get over it, and then like watching the rock go down the hill. And then you're like, well, should we go to a new hill? Like it takes so much and so much motivation and so much like ambition and just not giving up. And so much of that work that happens before you get to a set really does show once you get there if something is running smoothly or not. A lot of producers have told me like, once I get to set, if I've done my job correctly, I should be doing nothing. Like once you're there, it's like everything should be going smooth. And I think a productive set, like time is always in any industry is like using your time wisely, and honestly just like being nice to people. Like I will always come back to that, because I've seen that in both ways of when people in power or when anybody is just like kind, respectful people, the place all of a sudden is a happier place to be, which then people work harder, people like working, people want to come in with enthusiasm, versus the opposite. And if it can very quickly go downhill and be a toxic environment, then everything starts falling apart and everything starts getting worse and worse and piles on top of each other. And like, yeah, I think that's like really what makes a good set is good people.
Do you think that you're this way because you're Canadian? Because I feel like a lot of Americans say that all Canadians they've ever met are like the kindest people
so
ever.
I mean, I'll take the claim. Thank you.
No, I love that though. But I think that all those points are like so true. And, back to what we were saying before, regardless of what industry you're working in, the more you can do beforehand to like set yourself up for success is you're golden after that.
Totally.
You also have gone from, in front of the camera roles to some voice acting roles, both in like audio stories and also upcoming Angry Birds 3.
Yes.
Can you tell me about how you're thinking about new projects, new mediums, what you're interested in, especially as like so much is changing in the entertainment industry?
For sure. I'm so excited for what's going to happen next. And I have so many big dreams like all over the place. But yeah, getting to work in voice has been really fun. And it was a wonderful way for me to still be working while going to school. Because I think that was a big thing too, where I was like, oh, if I do another project, then I'm like leaving and I don't want to be out of Vancouver or whatever. And this was such a wonderful way to stay active, but still be at home and still get to focus on other things at the same time. Angry Birds was like one of the funnest things I've ever done. I loved it so much because there's like, it's such a playful environment. There was a lot of like, just improv, just do whatever you want. And I was like, if you tell me that, like, I will go for it. Like, it was so fun. And just getting like the email, like, this is what your bird looks like. I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. Like, I can't believe like, it's just such a different way of exploring a character and like getting to perform, but really focus on like details that you also don't get to like rely on the same things like normally rely on your face and your movements and your hand movements, whatever. I'm like, this is all you got is just your voice. Like this one tool. And like, that was really fun as well to kind of figure that out and crack that code.
You mentioned before too, especially moving from child actor to adult actor, as you have kind of gone on in your career, realizing that you are a businesswoman and this is, a business that you're building for yourself. You also mentioned that you kind of realize you are the product in some ways. How has that impacted your ability to like bring your full self forward or maybe reserve a little bit of yourself if you need to? What has that meant for you as you're both like on a set, but also like engaging with consumers on social media or the many different ways that you interface with people today?
Yeah, to be honest, it can be like a weird like mental thing to get your head around of like, normally if you were a business and you were comparing yourselves to other competitors like in the market, that would be like a normal thing to do. But when I'm doing that, I'm comparing myself to like other women, and that's not always a great thing for you to do. And like, that's a really weird thing to figure out. So I'm definitely still in the process of like how to do that healthily. I think social media is a great, great tool. And it is interesting that now I feel like no matter what you do and what you focus on, you kind of also need to be a content creator, and you kind of also need to utilize that because it's just such an easy, great way to reach people, and it's so helpful and it can be really like open up opportunities. And I've seen that firsthand, like how much it can impact things. But it's a tough balance because I also have never wanted to be a content creator, and that's not what I'm hoping to do long term as well. And having that balance of like, what is the purpose when I post, and what is this actually going to do? And I think I put a lot of pressure on myself for sure, but I framed it in some cases, it's like you're putting up a mini billboard every time you post something. And what I can get really like trapped in this cycle of is like, if you had a billboard, you would have a team and you would work on drafts of what that could look like and you would talk about it for days and blah, blah, blah. But I am a 22-year-old girl by myself in my bedroom trying to decide what photo I should post. But I'm like, well, millions of people are going to see this, and this is going to impact what I could possibly do in the future and impact how people see me and perceive me. And like, I can absolutely very quickly spiral with that and get really stressed because I think, yes, I should be kinder to myself, but also I believe a lot of what I was saying is also true. Like, this is important, and I think it matters with like now in this current age of social media and just of industry in general, people love knowing like, who are you? Not just who your character is, but who are you? And like, why should we care? And why do we want you to be in our next project and all of that? And it's constantly changing, and you kind of just have to keep up and like keep running on the hamster wheel and figure it out as you're going. And it is really interesting because years ago that was like, you didn't have to worry about social media. It's a whole other job attached to your job.
Are you feeling pressure from like within the industry to stay active on social media, especially as so many consumers today, to your point, like they love creators and they might want to see them not just on their phone screen, but on a big screen as well. What are those conversations that are happening within Hollywood surrounding how social has changed so much lately?
Yeah, it is really interesting because I have heard how much that can be involved in like the casting conversation of like, it's immediate marketing for that project. If you're advertising for it and you're posting the trailer and you're doing that it is important to have a platform and a space where people like know you and care about what you're doing. And I think I can get very I can get like very worried about that because it is also my one space where I have control. I think this is also a big thing where as an actor, you don't have control what your character's wearing or what they're saying or what their morals are or any of that. It's not you, but to a lot of the world, it is you for that brief moment. And my social media is like the only spot where I'm like, I get to pick. I can control. I can show you who I actually am, and like knowing what that is at the same time as like figuring out who you are as a 22-year-old, like it's already a weird time of you just learning like what is Anna, what am I, like all of that. So kind of just figuring out those layers as I go and like trusting myself at the end of the day that I know what's best for me and I can rely on my instincts more, I think is a big thing.
Yeah, totally. with social media, also things like AI and just so many other tech advancements are really impacting industries like Hollywood industries across the board. But definitely there's really kind of contentious conversations around how it might impact Hollywood moving forward. What are your thoughts on how it might or might not change the industry? Do you have any reservations about with these advancements in tech or just being in front of so many more people, how that's going to impact what the industry means moving forward?
Well, we've seen like so many shifts already. Streaming isn't directly AI or anything, but like just this new age of like, what is this looking like? What does media look like? There's a lot less of a rule book than there used to be. And I think there's a lot of entryways into the industry as well that we didn't used to have, of like living in LA used to matter so much, and going to pilot season and doing this and that. And now like you could have started in tech and now you're working in film. You could have started in social and now you're working in film. And like all of those things are so vastly like changing and they're shifting constantly, and it definitely can feel scary and uneasy just because anything new is a little bit scary because you don't know what that's going to look like for you or what it's going to look like as like a future industry in general. But I also think with those shifts like comes new opportunities and comes like new exciting paths as well. Like with streaming and with everything that's new now is like our show, we reach so many people that we wouldn't have gotten to, like all over the world in different countries in like a simple little button. Now you're watching our show. And I think that also allows more room for diverse media. And I think like having a wider audience as well has allowed like more diversity on screen and what kind of stories you want to tell. And that's been really exciting with these advancements. So I think there's a lot of like good things that can come from it, but I totally understand people being reserved about changes because change is something that you could rely on for so long of like, I know how Hollywood works. I know like the pattern here. It's scary. Of course it's scary because you just don't know what it means.
In terms of those new streaming opportunities, whether it's like multiple different streamers or a totally different medium like audio, like film, there are so many ways, like you said, to enter the industry today. Do you have one that you're most excited about continuing to pursue moving forward?
Well, I'm really excited to keep producing and knowing what that means. I'm like constantly asking people like, what do you actually do? Yeah. Like I see you around all the time. You're always on a set, but like I literally don't understand. And I'm still figuring that out. And like what I love is that so often the producers are like, you know what? I don't even know. Yeah. And like there's so many titles within that title, and just exploring like a more creative side of getting to be like part of the storytelling in a different way that as an actor you don't always have that chance because often you're fulfilling someone else's vision or someone else's story, and it's so cool to be part of it from day one. So I'm really excited about those opportunities, and I'm just excited to shoot something different as well because I love Kitty so dearly and I'm so grateful for what she's brought me, but I'm like bursting to do something new.
I think there are so many titles that are like that, like a consultant or a CEO. It's like, I don't know day-to-day
what
that looks like.
Actually like, sure, but what do you really do? Like, yes.
100%, I hear you on that. My last question for you is, as you are venturing into this kind of new era of you as an actor, what is your best piece of advice to either yourself when you first started or up-and-coming actors today, knowing what you know now?
I think your dreams might be closer than you think they are, and something that feels very out of reach and very impossible might not be. Because for me, if you had told me, like I said earlier, like years ago, that this one To All the Boys movie was going to bring me here this many years later as an adult, I like simply just would not have believed you. And that was right around the corner. That like often I get in my head of like, who am I to think that like all my dreams are gonna come true, and like all these big goals that I have, like maybe they're too far away. I'm like, actually, who are you to think they're not gonna happen? And who are you to think they're not right around the corner? Because you've just as many like reasons to believe they are. And I think that's my advice as well to people starting out. Like it can feel so vast and like this big scary ocean of like, how am I gonna dip my foot into like the world of film and TV? But it's possible because happened to a random girl in Vancouver that truly did not expect it. So it's honestly possible.
That's the perfect way to end. Thank you so much for joining me today. I cannot wait to see all that you have in the works for the future and your bird.
Yes, thank you. I'm excited.